Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cara.fiano and I am a local real estate broker here in the Asheville region with Mackey Realty. Today's video is my March housing market update video. Of course, I'll be discussing home prices, inventory, mortgage news, things of that nature, but I'm also going to be discussing how taxes have been increasing nationally, insurance rates have been on the rise, some interesting local news, and I'm also going to be sharing some tips for how you can save money if you are currently looking to purchase a property. So let's dive right in. Since 2020, home values have risen by 45.3% nationally. This is about 10 years of typical growth packed into 5 years. I imagine that statistic isn't too surprising for most of you, as many people know that home prices have been increasing like crazy over the past 5 years. Nearly 25% of the homes that sold in December sold for over asking. Naturally, when the price of homes increases, so do monthly payments. The typical monthly payment for a home today has risen by over $1,000 since February of 2020. This is over an 80% increase. After a record 14% increase in 2024, average insurance costs on a single-family home have increased by over 61% over the past 5 years to $2,290, according to the recent ICE Mortgage Monitor report. Rising home prices have also pushed up average property taxes, which have increased by 27% over 5 years and are averaging $3,018. The $1,521 combined increase in annual property taxes and property insurance since 2019 means that the average homeowner is paying $442 a month just on insurance and taxes. This is an increase of $127 on average from 5 years ago. Now, it's important to keep in mind that all of those statistics that I just shared with you are national figures. I get asked all the time, what are property taxes like in Buncombe County, where Asheville's located? Does Henderson County differ? What about Madison County, Haywood County, etc.? And I do actually have some numbers on this to share with you today. Not too surprisingly, places like New York, Texas, California, the Pacific Northwest, Chicago, places like this tend to have much higher property taxes than most of the US. Comparatively, North Carolina's taxes are quite low. As of 2022, Buncombe County's median taxes were around $2,000, whereas the surrounding counties are typically around $1,000 to $1,500. If you're curious about any county in particular, whether it's in North Carolina or anywhere nationally, let me know and I'll be happy to provide that statistic for you. In terms of home prices in the Asheville region, the average sale price is currently $494,000, which is about a 5.1% increase year over year. The median sale price is exactly $400,000, which is a 1.8% increase from a year ago. Now again, these statistics are for the Asheville region, which is composed of 13 different counties. So if you're looking in areas like Buncombe County, Henderson County, basically those more populated areas, the average and median sale price in those areas will naturally be higher. You might be wondering how much sellers are actually receiving on their properties. Are they getting more or less than their listing price? This number is actually 93%, meaning that on average, sellers are getting a little bit less than what they're asking for. This isn't a drastically low number, and it's actually about the same as it was last year. It's important to note that the market is starting to shift a little bit. While we are still in a seller's market and sellers a lot of times are getting pretty close to their asking price, seller concessions are actually on the rise. Seller concessions are the same thing as seller's assist. This is where a seller will actually pay some of the buyer's closing costs. I've been seeing this more and more frequently in contracts. Now, if you are a potential home buyer, there are some very important points to note here. Closing cost assistance can of course be used to lower the amount of money that you need to bring to the closing table. but it can also be used towards discount points to lower your interest rate. This could make a really big impact on your monthly payment and is going to be way more cost effective than lowering the purchase price. There are definitely some do's and don'ts with discount points, so please talk to your realtor and your lender about the specifics around this and what makes the most sense for you. For example, if you think that interest rates are going to go down in the coming years, then it might not make sense to pay for discount points now. It might make more sense to wait and just refinance in the future. Furthermore, if you're only planning on being in that home for maybe a couple years, it probably doesn't make sense to pay for discount points because you won't be in the home long enough to ultimately see the benefit of those savings. As I mentioned, there are a lot of nuances to this, but it can certainly be a way to make the home purchasing process more affordable. If you have any questions on it, of course, feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my contact info here on the screen and in the description box below. Moving on to inventory on a national level, new listings rose by 28% year over year in February. This is actually only 9% under the numbers we saw in February 2020, meaning we are starting to creep closer towards a neutral market. Current inventory levels are right around where they were at the end of 2024. Sellers are starting to overlook higher interest rates because of the record-breaking levels of equity they have accrued in their property. They are also more open to buyer negotiations, as I was mentioning earlier. According to a recent Zillow survey, 78% of sellers sold because of big life events such as a new job, an expanding family, etc. Additionally, only 54% of those home sellers actually used their newfound equity to purchase another property. This is down from 70% a year ago. It wasn't stated exactly what those sellers were doing with that equity if they weren't purchasing another property, but my guess is maybe they moved in with a family member into a multi-generational home situation, or possibly they are renting in hopes that the market kind of cools off and allows them to buy again at lower price points. I mentioned in many videos in the past, I don't particularly anticipate any sort of big housing crash. I know that there has been a lot of economic uncertainty and many people are wondering what is going to happen to the housing market going forward. I will dive into that in a little bit once I get to the mortgage news section, but let's finish up a few statistics on inventory first. New listings in the Asheville region are up by 10.9% year over year. Overall inventory is actually up by 32% year over year, though we're still not to those pre-pandemic levels. Spring and summer are usually peak time for increased inventory, so it'll be very interesting to see how these statistics change over the coming months. Month supply of inventory is currently 3.6, so we are still well within that seller's market range. It is really good to see inventory start to increase in this region. I know that for the past few years, buyers really have not had many options to choose from, so it is a welcome change. All right, moving on to mortgage news. Mortgage interest rates are currently averaging around 6.67%, which is the lowest that they have been since October of 2024. Consequently, mortgage loan applications are up by 31% year over year. As of right now, there is currently a 78% chance that the Fed is going to lower interest rates by June 18th. It seems that the Fed is sticking with their plan to drop rates roughly 2 times this year, but a lot of it is going to depend on what inflation does. Currently, inflation is too high at the moment. They really want to see it around that 2% number. I want to say last year when they dropped rates, inflation was around like 2.2 or 2.4%, right around there. I don't have the statistic in front of me, but right now it's about 2.8. So it's certainly much higher than they would like it to be. The ultimate question that everyone has been asking me over the past couple weeks is, what is the housing market going to do this year? Are we actually going to see a recession? Are home prices going to tank? Are we going to see mortgage rates drop or maybe increase? And honestly, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you the answer to that question. Personally, I'm not exactly sure what this year is going to look like. The reality is that no one ultimately knows. However, I can say a few things. So as I just mentioned, inflation is still too high for the Fed's liking for them to cut rates. This means that we could actually see interest rates stay where they are or possibly increase at some point later this year if inflation does stay too high. The Fed rates are not exactly the same as mortgage rates, but they are similar and they are related to each other. If we start to see interest rates increase, then I believe that we're in for probably another slow year in real estate. Last year we saw sales at 30-year lows, and I think that this year probably will be pretty similar. It's hard to say what's going to happen as there's a lot of uncertainty with tariffs. Tariffs could potentially cause the price of goods to increase, and ultimately inflation may increase as a result. On the flip side, consumer spending has been decreasing. So it is possible that at some point this year, the Fed tries to stimulate the economy and lower interest rates in order to do that. If we were to see that happen, I still stand by what I say, that if interest rates start to drop, especially close to that 6% mark, if we start to see them drop into the 5s, I really think that we are going to see a lot of sellers coming off the sidelines, start listing their properties. A lot of buyers start to come off the sidelines and want to jump into the market. There are still people that are going to want to buy and sell homes. And I think that once that uncertainty starts to diminish and we start to see kind of a clear path forward, that the market is going to react relatively quickly. Now, I do want to mention here that it's not like the real estate market is dead right now by any means. Yes, sales are down and homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer. But if you list your property at the right price point and your realtor has a good marketing plan, then it is possible to sell your home quickly. For example, some of you may have seen the most recent video that I put out, which was a home tour of a West Asheville property. That home actually went under agreement in less than 24 hours. We had 3 over asking offers, and it was just a super popular home. Hopefully that kind of answers your question as to what the market might look like this year. Of course, as that uncertainty starts to diminish and as we start to see the market kind of react and lean one way or the other, I will be updating you guys on this channel, so make sure that you are subscribed and can get those updates as quickly as possible. Moving on now to some local news. The WNC Nature Center just reopened this week. So if you are local, I definitely recommend heading over there and supporting them. NCDOT is currently working on reconstruction plans for US 74A, US 64, and Highway 9 down in the Back Cave Chimney Rock area to ultimately get those roads rebuilt. Chimney Rock State Park could see visitors as early as Memorial Day weekend. The final statistic I have for you is around annual income. The annual household income currently needed to purchase a property in the US is roughly $92,500. This is a 79% increase from 5 years ago, but only up by a few $100s from 2024. So as you can see with a lot of these statistics, if we compare home prices, housing inventory, annual income needed to purchase a property, basically, if we compare those figures to 5 years ago, we see these huge percentage point jumps. But if we look at a 12-month time period, generally we're not seeing too big of a change, which is kind of a good thing because it means that the real estate market and everything is starting to stabilize. I mentioned in videos in the past that the market that we saw around COVID in 2020, 2021, and 2022, that market was really not normal. It was an extreme seller's market, and the seller's market that we have now is certainly weaker than that, but it is still statistically a seller's market. If you happen to be a homeowner in the Asheville region and you are curious what your property might sell for in today's market, feel free to reach out to me and I'm more than happy to do a free comparative market analysis for you. I've been doing that for a lot of my past clients recently, and the amount of appreciation that they have seen just in 2 or 3 years has been astronomical. I just did one this morning where their home appreciated by $70,000 in 3 years. So that is really incredible. And of course, if you've purchased your property, you know, longer ago than that, maybe 5 years, 10 years, etc., you are likely sitting on a really nice chunk of unrealized equity. So if you're curious about that amount, feel free to reach out to me. And if you're a home buyer and you're curious about the home buying process, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to share my home buying guide. And if you have questions, like I mentioned earlier, about closing cost assistance or how to make the home buying process more affordable despite the higher interest rate environment that we're currently in, feel free to reach out and I will share some tips with you. So reach out to me anytime, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment, share this video with your family and friends, and I will see you guys very soon in the next one.